So welcome to the Node.js community TSC meeting for July 18th, 2018. Following our standard agenda, which is available in the GitHub repo. First of all, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share?
Yes, I have an announcement.
Okay.
So Node.js 10.7 will be out today, like in 1 or 2 hours, if everything goes fine.
Okay, sounds good. So everybody look for that new release. Any other announcements? Okay, so if not, let's move on to the issues tagged in the agenda. So the first one is request to elevate for elevated permissions 13.1337. I took a quick look at that earlier, and from the latest comments, I think the agreement is that we can take it off the TSC agenda for now. So that's what I propose we do, unless anybody else has different thoughts. Basically, the net is that it's being handled through other issues and other discussions, so there's nothing for us to sort of weigh in at this particular moment.
You mean the 1337, right?
Yeah, 1337.
Yeah, fine for me.
Okay, so I'm just going to take quick notes on that. Comments in issue say we can take off agenda now. Done. Okay, so moving on to the next issue, which is revert HTTP always emit close on rec and res. That's 21809. Let's see who added that to the agenda.
It was me asking.
Okay, so you want to give us the context?
So basically, at some point in May, maybe early of May, a collaborator opened up a pull request that changes the semantics of the close event in HTTP response. That close event in HTTP response is was actually not behaving like the other close events in core, meaning that it was only fired when a response was closed abruptly. It was an error-like event. Makes no real, to me look like a bug, but it's basically a legacy event. It was basically a legacy event. Anyway, the reason for changing this seems very clear to me. However, that was a Semver major change that slipped in in a minor release.
Right, okay.
So the question is now, a couple of months have passed, is what we want to do.
Right, so it's basically revert it and then leave it in 11.
Yeah.
Or leave it in 10.
Or revert it everywhere and do a proper Semver major landing thing.
Right. I guess you'd revert it in, okay, so you'd even revert it in master and then land it where it's tagged as Semver major.
Yes.
I guess the current question is what happens, like, if it's not tagged as, if we would do that, and I guess one of the concerns is if we leave it in 10, it might get backported to 8 and so forth, right?
Yes. If it hasn't, I hope not.
Right.
Like I don't think it had, but I would need to check.
So I labeled the original PR Semver major, so it shouldn't be pulled in another version than 10.
Okay, so yeah, perfect. So
I might still want to. I'll do this. I'll double check the 8.x branch PR that I think Miles was working on or someone was working on. Make sure it's not.
So that is definitely like, so that, we have a couple of changes.
Yeah, I guess it's
because this was introduced to fix some bug in userland code as well. So basically, there was so basically there was one PR, then one PR that fixed it. Okay, so it was actually fixed, and then there is a PR that so it's 3 commits, not even one.
Okay.
So there's something I see right now is that the userland package end of stream was maybe broken because of this commit?
No, so it was, yes, it was broken, then it was fixed with a later PR to 0941. And that was fixed. So this was the PR that fixed it.
Okay, so it was broken not because of the Semver major change, but because there was a bug in the change.
Yeah, there was a bug in the change, yes.
So do you guys have any, are you leaning one way and the other in terms of saying we should revert it or not revert it?
Well, this is a question. I think it has been there long enough to be warrant full to be warrant a revert in 10. But I see
it's been there long enough before 10 to warrant it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then we leave and then we can leave things that they are in 11, which I think would, and we leave things that they are in master. So basically, a revert only in 10. But there is like 3 commits to that needed to be reverted, not just one. So there is also in the docs, Michael.
I was just going to say I guess my initial reaction would be something along those lines too, that it's probably more likely that we're going to break somebody because it was the other way longer than it is the way it is today, right?
Yes.
And also when people move up to LTS, people are moving up to the next LTS version from 8 to 10. If it's, I guess that doesn't really apply because if they haven't moved up, it doesn't matter.
That's about my feeling.
Yeah. The only argument then would be like if it's more likely to be of value having it in 10, not than in 10, right?
The API to me, as it is right now, is kind of it behaves in a way that was unexpected to me.
Before the change or after the change?
Before the change.
Right.
Before the change.
Right. So it's almost like, I guess it comes, that's the other argument is if it was basically a bug.
To me, yeah, like you wouldn't expect a close event. You wouldn't expect a close event to be not emitted every time the connection is terminated.
Right.
Like you wouldn't expect that. Like it is completely unintuitive.
And you really would have expected. You would have, yeah. It's surprising nobody's reported until now.
Yes, exactly. Like yes. So it's also that. So those are the questions. So those are very like if you look at this text, I'm just pasting it here in the chat. There is this text in 8, and this is the text in 10. And you can see that in 8, it says, indicate that the underlying connection was terminated before response end was called or able to flush.
Okay, so the documentation did say what it did.
Yeah, well, it was updated on a third PR, so yes.
Okay.
So that's why it's somebody noticed and complained that it was not Semver following Semver.
Right. Okay. So somebody actually noticed this and said, "You're breaking me."
Yeah, you're breaking it. Yeah, and you did this without a server miner or something.
Right. Okay. I think in that, yeah, I think if somebody noticed that we broke them, we should probably revert it as.
Yeah, I do agree, and that to me will be the best course of action. Even though I still think it's like I would expect that close did what it was said on the tin.
Right.
The resource is closed.
Okay, I'm just taking a few notes.
So
anybody want to, like, anybody feel we shouldn't revert it? Okay, I guess if we don't have anybody who's going to chime in on the other side, there's not too much more we can discuss on this front.
No, it was for me more a decision that the TSC should make rather than a decision that we could just land.
Right.
Because it's.
So I'm gonna put the basically at TSC, please comment on the issue again.
Yes,
right.
And if nobody says anything, we can actually land it.
So I'm just going to add my +1. And okay. Okay. Do you think we need to add CC the TSC again, or did you already do that?
Yeah, I already did that, but
yeah, it's already at TSC. Okay, so basically, I put my 2 cents in, and anybody else on the TSC can do that as well. And then I guess, like you said, unless there's any objections, we can go ahead. Okay. Any more discussion on that issue before we move on? No. Okay. The next one is the password hashing API 21766. Just opening that guy. Who agenda?
I think that I added that.
Okay.
The agenda. That one is quite complex. The pair that starts that was 2H16. I will give it the chat right now. It is already present in several Node.js versions, but now it was noticed, and there is a regret voiced from several security-related people, including those from the security working group, that that IP was added in that form because so the problem now is that it could be both treated as a recommended way to implement a script in the user-land applications, because, for example, when someone wants to do a script, they look at what the code what the code provides, see the script function, and try to use that directly. What? Sorry? Did someone say something?
No.
Okay. And for many people, that could be more preferable than using something from the user language. I mean that using the function that is already there could be more preferable or straightforward than bringing in some model from the NPM, and that could also lent in some tutorials and so. But the problem is that that API is unsafe to use by people who are not security experts. There are just too many ways to do things incorrectly with that API. Those are outlined in the issue, and there was a recommendation to revert that. Strictly speaking, reverting that would be some major change, and I personally am not sure what to do with that right now. Yeah. In general, we have a history of providing low-level solutions that sometimes are indistinguishable from being full guns to the end users, like what happened to the buffer, which allocated a chunk of memory, what happened with HTTP IP sometime earlier, which would not check for input validity. I think that is also fixed by now. But I expect that a large portion of the IP that we have and expose could also raise concerns like that. I think that there is also a way to fix the script API right now without outright rewriting it, but that would involve making that function significantly polymorphic. That not only wouldn't have the salt as a parameter, but that also would change the return format, because the return format have to include the salt in that case, if the salt is not specified. Having the user to specify the salt is a pretty bad idea, in fact. That is one of the full guns of the JP. The second one is that there is no safe way to check if the password corresponds to the hash, because just what the user usually do would be prone to the timing attack. So I do not have a specific opinion on that right now. There is discussion going on in the security working group. The last comment I will give a link right now.
So basically, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I want to say that the last comment from that issue would that some people from there also expressed opinion that naming the function that is not safe to use by an average end user is naming the function just a script is probably not a very good idea. I think that reading that comment would also provide some info. So what did you want to say? What did you want to say?
James, you had you wanted to chime in?
James got logged out. I just promoted him back.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So go ahead.
Sorry, what was that, James?
No, I was raising my hand just so I could get promoted in.
Right. Okay.
Oops.
So Chalker, I guess it's like, do you have any recommendations on our next step? Is it that we wait to see what the security working group discussion, where that ends, or do you think that we need to take some action now?
One of the proposed action that people were expressing was that IP should be removed or renamed, and that would be a summer major change because something was already released by. It's unlikely that that function is used in the ecosystem by now. I think that I need to take a look at that, but I'm not sure if it is possible to revert that at this moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's possible to revert either. We should probably go look if there's usage though. Someone in the chat was saying that they've been searching through GitHub for usage of it and haven't seen anything. So, and I imagine if it is quite complex, it'll take a while for anyone to actually like adopt it to begin with.
So perhaps we could rename it to something else and make a safer script function, and have the old one. Okay, so one of the possible solutions would be to introduce a safer script function using the IP that was proposed by some of the security-related people, and rename the old one like to something, a script low level, or a script something like that, and deprecate the old usage of a script, but support it for now. I think that writing that down would be probably a better idea.
Sorry, which would be a better idea?
Me writing that down instead of saying that in the chat.
Sorry, I still didn't quite catch that to add it to the notes.
Oh, if he said that it would be a good idea. Sorry, go on.
I said that me writing that down in the issue comments might be a better idea than just trying to formulate it in the chat right now.
Right. Okay. So discussing it continue the discussion in the issue itself.
Yes. At this moment, I basically wanted to inform everyone of the situation over there.
And
so I think there'd be another possible option for how to approach this, although I think it is maybe a little bit unfavorable because it would take a little bit longer time. But we could do something like essentially deprecate the current API or issue warnings for it, and then change it in a December major version. Now, I know there's people that actually want to use this, so that might not be that effective. Although we could also, if we really think we are going to do something in terms of this API, we could start issuing warnings in, say, the next release.
Yeah, like this is going to disappear in 11. Don't use it could be the message.
Yes, and introducing a safer API under the same name, but having the old one polymorphically call the renamed function and print the variant might be a good solution to this.
Okay, so why don't we continue discussion in the GitHub issue? The sort of associate, the associated thing we might want to talk about is like, should we be changing something in our process to avoid this kind of thing in the future? Like, one thought that pops into my head is it that like additions of APIs for crypto should have some additional review requirements or something like that?
Probably by the security working group.
Right, like we could say something like, all new security APIs should be reviewed and get an okay from the security working group. Is that?
That would be a great idea.
Anybody having objections to those? To that? Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll take the action to raise an issue or PR or whatever somewhere to suggest changing our process to that, and we'll see. That will give an opportunity for everybody to comment, and we'll see if that goes or not. I'll just take a quick note. Okay, so then moving on to the next issue, which is doc remove 2 unused error codes from errors.md. That is issue number 21491. I think last time, as I remember, we were basically just waiting for Joy to be able to comment on the meeting in the meetings. So I think we need to wait. We'll wait for another meeting, as we still, I think, want her input on that.
Yes, that is nothing urgent.
Yeah.
We should wait.
Okay, to discuss. Okay, so moving on to, and I suggest we come back to the tracking issues at the end based on the time. I do want to reserve a little bit of time at the end for the private section. So let's skip the tracking issue on the TSC for board meetings and the strategic initiatives. The next one would be proposal add new core modules under a scope. That is number 389. I don't think there's necessarily anything for us to discuss this week, except that I believe there already is, like it was suggested, maybe an implementation would help answer some of the specific questions. That PR is open. I don't know, Matteo, if you've had a chance to look at that.
I had a quick look, but that's not what I need to reply. But that's not what I was looking for. So that's my current.
Okay.
I will need to cut it down. It's not. It's such an implementation will cause the problem at Bootstrap and so on. So.
Okay, so is it fair for me to say PR exists, but not what Matteo was looking for to clarify issues? He will comment.
Yeah, it's fine. Like as I said, this thing is probably going down to votes anyway. So then, if this wants to be moved on, it's fine. Okay, like it's.
I guess the question is the idea was that the PR might help clarify the issues and make it easier for people to understand.
It didn't clarify my issues at all.
Right. So it didn't do that. Do you still think there's a PR that would?
Like on a technical merit, it's going to be challenging without adding a huge bunch of files.
Okay.
And because any more files that we add increase startup time.
Right. So I wasn't like it was more like, can we come up with a PR which would clarify and make those kinds of things obvious, and is it worth doing that versus whether you can actually do it or not, right? Like it's either we can just say we got all the information we need, let's vote, or no, it's useful to try and get the PR which will clarify some of those things, and I was just trying to.
I think we can go to a vote.
Okay.
Like I think we can go to a vote. I don't think there's any more to discuss. Everybody's clear, and there are people that are more skeptical than others.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so why don't you chime into that issue?
Yeah, I can write a note on this. Sorry if I had to do it, but
yep,
it's linked. So
okay, so we'll take that as the next action on that one. Okay, so the next issue is, and I put the notes. Sorry, I'm just changing my notes because I put them in the wrong spot. The next one is moving the meeting times to 12/17/21. So thanks to Chakra, who's re-looked at our availability data. Do you want to give us a quick overview of what's suggested?
I mentioned that in the GitHub issue, which probably would be better to take a look at that because that's a large wall of text. But in general, that section of the meeting times should do a much better job than what we have now, both in the average and for the people that are less involved right now due to their availability.
So basically, we would move to the most preferred one is 12/16/21.
There are options that give a larger average and raise the average from 70% to 80%, but they do a worse job for people that are less involved because of their availability. But still a better job than what we have now.
Right, okay.
But I think that we should try to make things more even for everyone. So I proposed that one.
Okay. So basically the net is 12/16/21 is preferred. Some options give a better average, but make it harder for certain individuals. I would say so unless anybody is objecting, we should move forward with that. Maybe we should give people a little bit more time to comment. Would it make sense to wait until like next meeting to close on the decision?
I don't have an opinion on that.
I think I might suggest we do that just to give, because it's been open 3 days. It's probably good to give people more time. So maybe leave it till next week. We may get a different set of people in the meeting itself. And by then, hopefully everybody will have had time to comment.
That might work, though I mentioned this exact times in the email sometime earlier.
Yep.
My week earlier, something like that. But I'm okay with waiting for the next one.
Okay. So unless anybody objects, I'll note as like, let's leave until next week to make the final decision. And if we don't get any objections by then, we'll move to that the 12/16/21 as the new times. Okay with everybody? Oh, sorry, 12/16 meeting time. So it's 12/17/21 or 12/16. It's the title is 12/16/21.
16.
Yeah, 16. Okay. 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 Any more discussion on that front before we move on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The next issue then is number 404 in Docker in the Node.js Docker node. It's basically requesting an image without npm or yarn. Related issue that I opened myself in the release repository is, where did I put that? Sorry. I thought I commented some. I guess maybe I forgot to comment in there. Basically, in the discussion, there's also an issue in the release repo that I created that was asking, should we have two different distributions? One which is basically like, it's got everything, it's got your development tools, and then one which is a stripped down version, which is just for deployment. Some other languages have something similar. Java has like an SDK and a JDK. I think somebody mentioned that, a couple of others have something similar as well. And it sounds like the Docker team is actually going through the process of creating an image where they're going to strip out things from our regular builds. And the question from Tierney, who added this, was like, should we be thinking about doing something in our releases as opposed to forcing other teams to actually, strip stuff out?
So depends. What's apart from npm? What are the things are looking to strip out?
The final suggestion, like some of the previous discussion after I made my suggestion, and what they're looking at doing, I think, in the Docker one is actually only provide the binary. So it's basically, and we already do that for Windows. You can get just the binary with nothing else. And so if you just want to run it, you've got the binary, you can do that. Nothing else comes with it.
Would that cause problems? No, because we when installing native modules, no, because it will download the headers. Is this correct?
It may be that the assumption is that, like, so for binary modules, even, you've already built your tree.
Yeah, but you need to build that image for that specific environment. So
you would need the matching. You would obviously need the matching version of Node. But you could.
Yeah, but I think Node.git downloads the headers automatically, so it's.
I think because if you look at it, right, like if you don't have npm, you're going to have to already have installed your packet, your non-native packages.
It's fine. No, it's fine. It's fine by me, like completely.
Anybody else have any thoughts? I'll ask one other question. Do people think if we did that, we would be able to add more things into the regular package?
No.
And
not me.
Why not? Because people would still be worried about the size of the one with everything else?
Because it's not just Docker.
Right. No, I guess, but I'm like one of the constraints, and the reason people are asking for this is that some people are concerned about the download size and the disk footprint size.
Yeah, but it's so the amount of like doing it with Docker. So the things that they're going to remove. So there is after you remove npm and the docs and some stuff, you just ship the binary. There's nothing else anymore to remove. And if we add anything to Node, it will be in the binary.
Right. I meant more like if you want to add, say you want to add in something that takes additional footprint. So say somebody said, hey, I want to have yarn and npm installed.
Okay.
One of the concerns is well, wait a sec, you're making the download size and the footprint size bigger, but if we actually have two different ones, maybe that's okay. Because if you want the small footprint, you take the small footprint one, and for the other cases, it doesn't matter so much. And that's, I'm sort of wondering what people think about that.
If we wanted to do that, we should do it across the board. Not just for Docker.
Oh, no, yeah, no, right. So the thing would be if we actually, I think what I could see see happening is we have two releases for each platform, one which is the binary only, and then one which is the development kit that has npm and whatever other tools we think make sense. And so if you want something small, you take the binary only. If you want something that includes the other tools, you can get the bigger one. And I'm just curious if people think that then people would be less concerned about the size of the bigger one.
People will still use the bigger one.
Yes, I don't think the size is the problem. I think most of people will still continue to use the bigger one because they use npm also not only on the development machines.
Would they then care if it got bigger?
No, but I think I personally would care if suddenly Yarn was available in my machine.
So maybe
I want to mention. Wait for a second. So in the chat, it has been mentioned I think I remember this. So the Docker image from that repo ships yarn in it already.
One of the images does. I think the stripped down one won't have either, but you are right. The Docker one, there is one that I forget which one already includes yarn. But that's sort of a separate. Maybe I used the wrong example, but like, you know, say we had something else we decided we wanted to add in. You know, for example, you know, I think one example is full ICU. If we wanted to actually bundle in the full ICU data, there, you know, that's another 20 meg or something, right? And for people who want the smallest, that's an issue. But if we added that to the sort of the larger one, do we think people would actually mind?
But here it would be a different binary, wouldn't it?
The ICU stuff, I think like currently we build in the base small version, but then you can add another file which would have the larger data to the path.
Okay, so you're not talking about the PR that is adding full ICU to Node.
No, I mean I'm only sort of thinking about that one because I was talking with Stephen about what the different options are, right? So, you know, we could do that in a different way potentially if you had the two different distributions.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we need to to discuss about this to decide if we want or not a stripped down version.
No. So okay, so yeah, I think that's a good point. So I guess it's like if you have any concerns or if you are supportive of, you know, I guess it's like, do people think we should actually consider having two different things? And, you know, this is an example where, you know, by not having that, we're forcing the Docker team to do some extra work. I would basically say, you know, jump into that issue or the other issue that I'm going to open up, paste it into the chat right now. Anybody else have any more comments or things we should discuss on that before we move on? Okay, I'm just going to take a quick note here.
Maybe I'd say that if only Docker really needs it, it seems weird to add this option. I mean, if nobody else has asked for it before.
Right, seems.
Yeah, but to me it seems like we can experiment it with. So depends on how much work it is to actually do binaries for Linux. Without it, might be worth doing it anyway on our CI.
Yeah, I think basically it's like yeah. That's the fundamental thing is like is the trouble worth the reward? If Docker was the only place, but I definitely know that other people have complained about our size of our binaries. Like, you know, there's been people saying it's been creeping up. What I don't 100% know whether is that the people who've been complaining about that are also people using Docker, or whether that's a bigger set. Okay, so I guess maybe, you know, jump in with your comments in 341 or the Docker issue, you know, 341 if you think that's the right place that makes sense, or the Docker issue itself. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to move on to 74, which is user feedback issue number 74. That was for awareness. The meeting's already happened, so I'm just going to say happen, nothing to discuss. And since we only have 7 minutes left and some private business, I'd propose that we call it for the meeting at this point and move on to that section. Any objections or things that people think we do need to cover? Okay, if not, let's quickly, is anybody watching the YouTube channel, see if there's any questions? Look over.
No, there haven't been any questions. The 2 comments that I put in, and a little bit more on the Docker image thing. I can probably just go into the issue though.
Okay. Okay, so at that point, I'm going to thanks for everybody for watching, and I'm going to close down the stream.